somebody tell me why the Pope is doing this?
You'll watch very closely on this one.
He's not kissing the feet of no damn Moors. Okay, so on the live yesterday, one of the persons on the live asked, what did I think about, in the question and answer part, asked, what did I think about the Pope kissing some Moors' feet? And to my recollection, I was like, there are no Moors, so that's problem A. And then, what do you mean kissing the Moors' feet? So I went and I researched Pope kissing Moors' feet, and I'm thinking it's something ancient, something back during the time frame when there was a class of people that identified themselves as Moors and the Moorish Empire. So I'm looking for things that happened in the 7th century, 8th century, 9th century, all the way up to maybe the 12th, 14th century, 14th, 15th century. But I never saw anything about a Pope kissing feet. I'm thinking it's one of the popes from during that Middle Age time frame. But as it turns out, every video that I found was that particular video. And in that video, somebody put that it was Moors, that he's kissing Moors' feet. And just like with the Putin video that was a fake, this video is a semi-fake. It is a semi-fake because it is claiming that the men whose feet he is kissing are Moorish. And I'm going to break down some Moorish bullshit that people continue to follow. First and foremost, let's correct the video. Pope Francis was not kissing Moors' feet. He was kissing the feet of the leader of Sudan and the rebellion leader of South Sudan. They had been in civil war for a number of years, and they had signed a peace treaty. Pope Francis went down there and he's kissing their feet because he was imploring them to maintain the peace treaty. Things was getting a little sketchy around 2018, 2019. So he felt like in his papal duties to go down there and kiss these men's feet. Now, to me, I would never kiss any man's feet. That's bullshit. But he felt like he would make himself a servant because the leader of Sudan is Catholic. And Sudan is a Catholic country for the most part. The second major religion in Sudan, especially in South Sudan, is Islam. So he is trying to make sure that the two, and he calls them brothers because they are both of the Abrahamic faith, that they will maintain the peace treaty and not go back into a civil war. And to really understand why these men are not Moorish, you have to understand Sudanese history, as well as the Moorish Empire and the Islamic Empire. They both kind of run into each other as far as Moorish and Islamic Empire. They're pretty much the same damn thing. But you'd have to know the history of it, at least a little bit of the history, to be able to understand that these men have never been Moors. First and foremost, let me show you this. In this image, what you see is the full extent of the Moorish Empire / Islamic Empire at different stages, as well as the full extent of Islamic influence. The red lines that are colored going over the greens and whatnot are influence that the Muslims had in and around 1200 CE. Now, Sudan is up in here. Sudan has never, ever been conquered by Islam. Or Southern Sudan has never been conquered by Islam, never conquered by the conquered by the Islamic power or the Moorish power. Moors were Arabs who conquested the Arabian Peninsula throughout the Levant, over into Asia, across North Africa, and into Spain and Italy. Well, mainly just Spain. not Italy, just into Spain. Now, Spain and Portugal. Those people were of the Moorish Empire in and around the seventh and eighth century. That's when they were considered Moors. As they moved along and became more of the Islamic Empire, it was an empire under Islam. Never did they conquer Sudan as a totality. There were times where they had gained ground in northern Sudan and eastern Sudan, but they quickly lost it. They tried to invade Ethiopia, but they quickly lost it. But their influence still remained up until today. Now, the people from Sudan never were under the full reign of the Moorish Empire. Now, northern Sudan used to be called Kush, and they were the Kushite Empire. They've dealt with the Axiom Empire. They've dealt with many different kingdoms throughout the centuries. But at no point were the Sudanese people Moorish. Now, let me tell you how people of Sub-Saharan Africa became Moorish. They became Moorish through being conquered or through the transatlantic, trans-Sahara slave trade, meaning that they were conquered, they were sold, and then brought into North Africa, into the Levant, into the Arabian Peninsula, and they were then converted over to Islam and became a part of the Moorish Empire. So it is not like the Sudanese people willfully went into the Moorish Empire. Those who were captured, conquered, sold were forced to become Muslim, forced to become part of what would be the Moorish Empire. This is why the Moors range from what we would call Caucasian all the way to Sub-Saharan black and everything in between. But the true Moorish people were those who began the Islamic Empire. Abdullah Bakr, those guys began it, not people who looked like me. People who looked like me were forced into it. Now, all these Americans running around talking about, I'm Moorish, I'm Moorish, I'm Moorish. If you cannot trace your lineage to Northern Africa, to Saudi Arabia, to the areas of the Islamic Empire, you're not Moorish. The Moorish influence, the never reached the parts of Sub-Saharan Africa, Nigeria, Congo, Benin, the Dahomey, Togo, Ghana. It never reached those areas during the Trans-Sahara nor the transatlantic slave trade. So if your ass is in America and your family has been here 5, 6 generations, you came through Christian conquest of that area. You were never Moorish. And unless you can prove your lineage, you're just doing what so many people do. They grab onto a time frame in history where people look similar to them. They don't dive into the history to understand how their ancestors would have become parts of these empires. And they just claim it because they want to find something in their ancestry that they can be proud of, that they can say that was conquerors. But if you understand history, every group of people have been conquered and every group of people have been conquerors. The British were conquered by the Romans, and then they became conquerors themselves. And in their conquering, they went and conquered other people. They actually went and conquered Sudan. And Sudan, after the 1800s, after they conquered Sudan after the 1800s, when Sudan was under Islamic influence, and made it a British colony. So stop. If you got family from Sudan, you can claim British because it's all made up names. There was no such thing as an American 800 years ago. But now, people who are of that American lineage will claim to be Native American. But there was no such thing as a Native American 800 years ago. People just claim shit and don't even realize what they're claiming. He was not kissing Moors' feet because there are no Moors. But y'all have a great day.